Happy Wednesday, everyone! Welcome to Water Wednesday, New Residents Guide to Florida's Environment. So if this is your first time joining us on Water Wednesday, just give you a little bit of background on what is Water Wednesday. So we started Water Wednesday in 2020 as a Facebook live session. So these are short, like online sessions, about 10 to 20 minutes, and covering a wide range of water-related topics. Sometimes we cover topics related to rainwater harvesting, could be water saving in your garden, and sometimes we cover topics that's like drinking water safety and how to set up your irrigation system. So you can see it's a very wide range of topics. So if you're interested, you can also find the previous topics on our Facebook and YouTube channel. So in 2023 and 2024, we brought Water Wednesday in person in Lake County Discovery Gardens, have more of these hands-on demonstrations to showcase these practical ways we can all help saving Florida's water. And in 2026, we have a new focus. So this new focus is focus on new residents, aim to help new residents understand essential environmental topics during their first year in the state of Florida. So some of you have attended the previous Water Wednesdays, but if this is the first time you join us, so we're already in the middle of this whole Water Wednesday series. So these topics cover also a wide range from Florida's weather to wetland, to stormwater ponds, and to today it's hurricane preparedness. We'll also cover like humidity next month, excuse me, and it's summer long irrigation and care. Just a little bit of quick housekeeping and how Water Wednesday works. So it's a monthly webinar series, and we provide research-based information from IFAS extension. So you can have this live interaction with our presenters. And after each Wednesday, Water Wednesday, we'll post a recap blog on our Water Wednesday website with the summary of the webinar and the recording to the webinar. And just to make sure we can capture all your questions and also to engage the participation, just want to let everyone know during the presentation, we will disable the chat box. So if you have any questions, please use the Q&A function. So in that way, all the questions will be funneled in one place. We don't want to miss your questions. If we cannot answer your question during the live webinar, since we have the list, we'll also put all these questions, we'll answer the questions in our recap blog. And also a little bit different if you have attended previous Water Wednesdays, because during the sessions, we have quizzes during the talk. But for this time, we're not going to do the quiz or poll questions during the webinar. We still have the door prize, and the door prize is here. And we're still giving one certified water testing kit to one participant of this webinar. And the only requirement is there's exit survey. Once you finish the exit survey, we'll do the drawing, and one person will receive that, and the winner will be contacted directly. So without overdue, let's just jump into today's topic. Today's topic, like I said, is a hurricane preparedness, a guide for new Florida residents. And our speaker for today, the primary speaker for today, is Dr. Angie Lindsey. She has a wealth of knowledge regarding hurricane preparedness. And Dr. Andrea Alberton, the Water Resources Regional Specialized Agent in IFAS Extension, will also join us for today's webinar. So with that, I will hand it to Dr. Lindsey and tell us how to prepare for hurricane in Florida.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here, and I'm very excited to talk with everyone about hurricane preparedness, especially we are at the beginning of hurricane season here, and we're obviously prepare for the worst and hope for the best here in Florida. So thank you so much for having me, Ellen. I appreciate it. And I'm hoping today that I can provide some resources and some background regarding hurricane preparedness. I'm going to mostly talk about hurricane preparedness and then also some things to think about during the storm as well. And then we'll touch on things after the storm as well, but I wanted to keep this very much so at the preparedness level. So just to give you a little bit about me and who I am besides the disaster girl. So I am actually a faculty member here within the University of Florida, and I'm the disaster specialist for IFAS Extension. So a lot of the work that I do, the extension work that I do, is through a program called EDEN, which is Extension Disaster Education Network, and we are actually a national network of extension professionals throughout the country at land grant universities throughout the country who focus on disaster management in some regards. And so obviously, depending upon where you are and what kind of natural disasters you have, we are truly a network of individuals. We share best management practices, we share resources, and it's a great family of folks that really work together to help each other out during different types of disasters. And this includes your natural disasters, technological, biological, and man-made as well. So, and we include all the land grant institutions, including the ones you see in the red dots. So these are the 1862. Many of our 1890 institutions, including Florida A&M University in Tallahassee, which is our sister institution. Kimberly Davis is the contact for Florida, and then also our Native American institutions in the western part of the country. They also are part of Eden as well. So this is a really connected network with a lot of diverse individuals and a lot of folks working in different program areas that we're able to help each other out before, during, and after disasters. And so they have certainly been a great resource for me in working disasters in the past, hurricanes in the past couple of years. So just a little bit about Florida Eden specifically. So we actually have 3 points of contact. I am the point of contact for the University of Florida IFAS Extension. As I mentioned, Kimberly Davis is our point of contact at our sister institution, Florida A&M University. And we have one representing our Florida Sea Grant. Because we do have Florida Sea Grant on our campus, we are able to have another point of contact. We have about 20. I would say that number is probably about 30 delegates throughout the state that all work in disaster management. I would say Extension does work in pretty much everybody in Extension works in disaster management in some capacity within all 67 counties, but it's very different. Everybody has a different role, and the role they work in disaster management within their county, within their communities as well. But our work obviously aligns along the national mission, which is to reduce the impact of disasters through that research-based education, what Extension is known for, providing that research-based education and applying it to the needs and the gaps within our communities. So again, we work with 67 counties on programs, education, and tools involved at all levels of disaster management, including preparedness, mitigation, response, and of course, recovery as well. Just really quickly, experience can be our greatest teacher regarding developing those programs and those research and the tools that communities need. And having about 6 storms in the past six years has been very much so a teacher of what the impacts are, what our communities need before, during, and after these storms. And I feel like we have learned something after each one of these storms as well. And then 2024 obviously was also a very big year for us in learning not only about bigger storms, but then also those storms that impacted us within 2 weeks of each other, including Helene and Milton. What about those looking really much compound disasters and then cascading disasters as well? What happens when you are impacted within 2 weeks of each other, and what can we do to support our community in those trying times like that? So every one of them has been an experience, and so it's kind of leaded to the work that we do based upon, especially in natural disasters and hurricanes, and we do have active involvement at all levels of that disaster management, including preparation, mitigation, response, and recovery. So just real quickly, what does this look like? Obviously, we have programs throughout the year. And you can look for a program within your particular area as well. We do have some counties that do programs on, year-round programs on, especially on folks that maybe not live here around year-round. How do you close up your house going into hurricane season? And these are really helpful programs for folks that may be new to the area or may not be full-time residents as well that might be able to do that. So reach out to your county extension office to find out what programs and tools they may have, and what assistance they could offer in helping you prepare for the season. But then also if you plan to leave before the crux of hurricane season, which is usually that late August to the end of October area as well. A lot of our work is around the emergency support functions, which is at the state and federal level, as far as local, state, and federal level as far as emergency management. We are an active liaison with the state agricultural response team. A lot of our folks are public information officers. Many of our folks are first responders, and so they have a volunteer role, or they have a role in being a first responder. Many of our folks work in the emergency operations centers within their own county, so 12-hour shifts a lot of times before, during, and after those storms, working in shelters, and then damage assessments as well. That's a lot of the work that our economist, Dr. Krista Court, does, of looking at the impact and assessing the damage of these storms also. So just to kind of give you a background of sort of the role that Extension plays in disaster management, I tell people all the time to look at disaster management and how one county does it in Extension. You've seen one county. So every county is a little different and how they work together. So I would encourage you to reach out to your county and talk with their Extension folks from that area regarding programs they do regarding disaster management and tools they may have readily be available as well. So let's get to the fun stuff. Let's talk a little bit about planning to be safe before the storm. And obviously we are in the middle of June, so we are in hurricane season. In Florida, hurricane season starts June 1st and it ends November 30th. So it's a long 5 months that we're within hurricane season, and so obviously the crucial time for us is usually that late August and early October. So even though we're already in the season, we absolutely can still be planning. So I'm hoping that some of these tricks and tools that I provide today can help you get a plan together and get ready for 2026 hurricane season. So speaking of 2026 hurricane season, this just came out last month, and named storms is 8 to 14, 3 to 6 hurricanes, major hurricanes of 1 to 3. So season probability is 10% above normal, 35% near normal, and then 55% below normal. So, I mean, I'm hesitantly optimistic because you never know. Obviously, you have to be reactive to disasters and especially weather like that. But last year we were lucky enough that we did not have a direct impact. There were some major storms that developed out into the Atlantic. But knock on wood, we escaped a direct hit. Considering we had 3 in 2024, it was a nice break because obviously much of the state is still recovering from those storms that I just showed you earlier. So it's just something to think about. I mean, 1 to 3 hurricanes is that's one too many. One hurricane is one too many. So especially if you're talking about a category 3, 4, or 5 hurricane. So first, I just kind of want to start with some of the basics. Some of these great infographics that I have are from ready.gov, and they are a fantastic resource in looking at hurricane preparedness stuff. So hurricane watch and hurricane warning, that is definitely something you will hear. NOAA, actually, the National Weather Service and National Hurricane Service out of NOAA, they have a whole new system with the cone of uncertainty, and the cone and the impact area of these storms too. So I definitely encourage you to look at some of what NOAA is providing regarding what this is going to look like this hurricane season. They did test it out last year. So if you were with us last year, you probably saw the new cone versus the older cone. And so obviously the hurricane watch and hurricane warning has stayed the same. A watch is issued when hurricane force winds are possible within those 48 hours. And this is preparing your home by boarding up those windows, moving loose items indoors, and have your emergency supply kit ready, meaning hurricane winds are possible. Hurricane warning is issued when hurricane winds are expected within 36 hours. So be ready to seek shelter and structure evacuate if ordered. Hurricane winds are expected. So basically, if you're under a watch, you need to get everything squared away. If you didn't have anything, if you had some last minute things you were waiting to do to see if this is really going to happen or not, that watch is telling you this is going to potentially happen. And then the warning is when you hit the go button. So that's basically one of the things to think about is a watch is it's possible and a warning is they are expected. So just something to think about when you're thinking about planning. I know a lot of times people are like, oh, I sat there and watched it for 2 days and it never came to my area. If you really rely on those watch and warnings, especially for your area, it'll help guide in your preparation regarding where you are as far as possibilities and expectations as well. So this is the Sarah Simpson Hurricane Wind Scale. It kind of gives you an idea of these hurricane categories, basically, and what it could potentially damage that it can provide as well. And I did mention, those large hurricanes, those devastating hurricanes, are usually that category 3, 4, or 5. I mean, even at a category 3, you're talking about devastating damage, electricity and water unavailable for several weeks. Your category 4 is 130 to 156 miles per hour winds. This is severe damage, long lasting power outages, and obviously road blockages from that debris a lot of times in the road. And then hurricane level 5 is extremely destructive at 157 miles per hour plus. Anything above that. Hurricane Michael, which we had in 2018 in our Panhandle area, was a category 5 hurricane. And it's catastrophic damage, high percentage of homes completely destroyed and uninhabitable for weeks or months. And that area is still trying to recover from that category 5 hurricane. Obviously 3, 4, and 5 are devastating hurricanes, but we don't want to not address hurricane levels 1 and 2. You're still talking about 96 to 110 miles per hour winds, extensive damage. You've got roof damage, buildings, and near total power loss as well. Even the category 1, some damage, including minor damage to homes and short-term power loss as well. And I do want to add here that these are just the winds. The flooding and the rain is also a major, major impact and can be very destructive as well. The storm surge, especially for those of our counties that are within the on the coastal areas, but even some of our inland counties, we have a lot of rivers and lakes in our state. So understanding the level of rise of those particular waters, in addition to the storm surge, it's all impacted together. So water, do not ignore the water because flooding can be extremely damaging and destructive as well. So many of our past storms, the storm surge and the flooding has been one of our major impacts from the storm. So just something to keep in mind as you're thinking about preparedness. Yes, we want to prepare for these 130 mile per hour and winds, but also thinking about the flooding impacts as well. So you want to have a plan to be safe. And this includes during the storm, obviously, especially if you plan to shelter at home and are able to do so. But also, I have really thought a lot about and talked a lot about preparing to recover, trying to think about those things that may be impacting your particular area after a storm, like what could be impacted within my yard even. One of the best examples I can give, and it's very simple, is if after a storm in Florida, many of us have oak trees and we have trees on our properties. And after a storm, there is a lot of debris on the ground. There's a lot of moss. There's a lot of, I live in the northern part of the state, so I have a lot of oak trees. So there's a lot of moss. There's a lot of branches. There's a lot of things. Do you have a rake? Just making sure that you have something that's going to be able to help out and getting some of that information or get those things off of your lawn, basically. So just something as simple as, do you have a rake? Do you have the tools you need in order to help with cleanup, basically? So in thinking about planning, I want you to think about not only what do I need to be safe for the next 3 days, 7 days after the storm, but then also once you go into that recovery mode, once you get past kind of the response and go into the recovery, do you have the tools you need for that as well? So thinking a little bit beyond the week after the storm and thinking, okay, 2 weeks from now, what may I need? What may happen? And that some of that's definitely going to come going through a planning process, which we'll talk about that in a minute. So I would suggest everyone gather information. I'll talk about ways that you can gather that information, assemble your kit and supplies, and this can be done during blue skies, and it can be done blue skies, meaning not hurricane season, but since we're already in hurricane season, we absolutely can go ahead and assemble those kits and supplies. Develop a strategy, and that's with your plan as well. Make sure you follow the food safety guidelines and know your potential for disaster risk as well. Creating a plan is the best way to do this. And I did add the floridadisaster.org website, which is a fantastic website to look at regarding what are your potential risks, what are the areas that you live in that may be evacuated, and I'll get into that in a minute as well. But there's a lot of great resources on that particular website, and there's a lot of ways to make sure that you are getting great information during that time as well. So one of the best ways to do this is Florida has an alert system. And it is a great way in which to get information for your particular area. So we also have a FEMA app that I would highly suggest that you download as well, because it will give alerts for your area also. But you can sign up for community alerts in your area or county by simply going to this Florida Alert Florida statewide notification initiative. And I just did a screenshot there on the bottom. It's on that floridadisaster.org website. And if you simply go there and put Alert Florida, or you could even Google Alert Florida, and it will take you to this particular website. You enter your county and city and hit submit, and it will make sure that you get added to all the alerts for your particular area. I get the alerts for my area. I even get traffic alerts text for mine. So you can indicate, I know in my county, may not be every county, you can indicate what alerts that you want from your particular county. So you can get as many or as few as you would like to get as well. The Florida Public Radio Emergency Network is another fantastic resource before, during, and after. They are on the whole time during a disaster. So especially if you've got a weather radio and are able to listen during a storm or during a power outage, or just have a radio, they're a great way to still get information when the storm is actually coming through. NOAA weather radios are fantastic as well. Again, they are on 24/7 also. So these are fantastic ways to continue to get information even as the storm's coming in. But let's talk about planning, because planning is very, very important. And I think a lot of people here developing a plan and automatically think, oh my gosh, I've got to develop this beautiful plan. I've got to put this together. That just sounds like a ton of work, but it's not. I mean, I tell people what little bit that you can do before a storm is going to be helpful. Storms can be extremely, and any kind of disasters can be extremely stressful. And so therefore you're not thinking clearly. And being able to refer back to even an index card that you wrote some things down on, being able to look at something quickly that tells you, okay, this is what we talked about. This is our meeting place. This is where we said we were going to evacuate to. Being able to refer back to that reference that you developed when it was not during a time when you think, oh my gosh, we're going to be hit by a hurricane, is going to be helpful. And the things that you want to think about in developing a plan are those basic who, what, when, where, and how. So why do we need to develop this plan? Why do we need to make sure that we have a plan for this? Who needs to be involved? And this includes you, yourself as an individual, family members that you have within your household, but then who in your family may be outside of your household. In addition to family, are there's neighbors and things like that maybe they are on their own and you have been looking out for them, or they're folks that you want to make sure that they're okay as well. Also understanding when this plan will happen. Is this something that you want to basically get in motion once you get a warning? Again, or do you want to get it when it's a watch? So get things moving when you're under a hurricane watch, get things moving when you're a hurricane warning. And what are the things you want to cover? Are you making sure that you have a location point for your family to meet if you get separated? Phone numbers, that's a main thing. A lot of times our cell phones do not work correctly after a disaster. So making sure that you print out that contact list so that you have those phone numbers ready and available. also important documents and things like that also. And then how will you make sure that these things are done appropriately before, during, and after the storm as well? So just things to think about that's important to you and your family, and how are you going to go about ensuring that everybody is safe and everybody can communicate during and after a storm as well. So, why prepare? The biggest breakdown in disasters efforts is often communication. So, having that information ahead of time is fantastic. And like I said, it's a stressful situation. You are absolutely in reactive mode. You may not be thinking clearly. And a plan provides that roadmap and everything is in one place. Again, even if it's just an index card where you write some things down on that you want to make sure that you do or make sure that you pay attention to, is going to be extremely helpful as well. So why? So we prepare to try to lessen impacts from disasters. Now, we all understand that disasters, we've been through many hurricanes, especially in the past 7 years. However, we have to be reactive in some ways. You have to be flexible in some ways, but the more proactive that you can be in preparing for those impacts, hopefully you're going to lessen some of those impacts because you kind of know what to expect. Especially, like I said, experience can be our best teacher. Past couple of storms that we have had in our state have definitely taught us things that we need to be aware of as far as impacts and community needs and gaps after storms as well. So what can we do in blue skies before the next hurricane to lessen those impacts later? In addition, complex disasters. And one of the main things that I can think about as far as complex disasters is we had COVID-19 during hurricane season. So how do you shelter people? How do you tell people to go to a shelter when everybody needed to be 60 feet apart? So complex, there are different things that come into play regarding disasters and compound disasters as well. Are there other things that happen that are things that can spin off of these types of hurricanes? And yes, like we have definitely seen that was what we call cascading events. We've had tornadoes that have been part of these particular storms as well. But then we've also had, flooding issues and things after disasters that cause an additional cascading disaster. So yes, a lot of times you're dealing with one storm, but a lot of times there are other things that spin off of that storm, no pun intended. But a lot of times there are things that come up. So thinking about those things that could possibly happen, like an additional tornado, flooding within your area, down trees that you could not drive. So thinking about those things, those mini disasters or disasters that can happen because of other disasters as well, can be helpful. So who should prepare? I say everyone. Encourage that whole family planning. Ready.gov did a great job a couple of years ago of really getting students involved and youth involved in planning. And they had a whole program, and Ready.gov still has that particular program for youth of like, how do you prepare your home for a hurricane? And so getting children involved in this and helping them understand why it's important to plan, it can be very helpful. And it's a great way for the family to understand what are our risks and how best to plan for those particular risks as well. And you're developing a culture of planning. So you're demonstrating for your children that this is what we do. We're making a plan. We're making sure to keep our family safe. But then hopefully these kids are going to grow up to be planners as well. So Ready.gov, I think, was thinking about the future, but they did a great job with that program as well. And thinking about a plan, again, this does not have to be something that you have to come up with on your own. There is a lot of great templates out there. This is just one I pulled from the Marine and the Army. They all have kind of family emergency plans. But if you Googled family emergency plan template, you're going to have tons of opportunities to look at different templates that are out there as well. But it's a great way to get yourself started. Obviously, you don't have to fill everything out if it doesn't apply to you, obviously. And obviously, you can add things to it as you need to based upon your own family needs and family values as well. In addition to templates where you can actually fill them out, there's also some great templates and some resources out there regarding making a family emergency plan. Family establish the evacuation procedure, the family communications. Again, all comes back to communications a lot of times. What is plan A, plan B, and plan C for communication, and making sure that y'all can contact with each other, but then also stay in contact with family members that are not in the area that are going to be very concerned about you as well. So I'm definitely, you probably have heard about making sure you have your disaster kit. It's something you definitely have heard the past couple of weeks here in Florida regarding making sure you have your kit readily available. I actually really like this particular resource. Sorry, I had to cut it up, but it's a long one. So, but it kind of gives you, instead of, you need to have uh, this many bottles of water or this many things. It gives you a good idea of different ways in which kind of percentages of making sure that you have this information. 3-day supply of non-perishable food, emergency supplies such as flashlights, trash cans, medical thing, dried fruit, different types of tools that you may need as well. 3-day supply of water, 1 gallon per person per day. A lot of people don't realize that that's a lot of water. And so folks, obviously during going into hurricane season, you can go to our grocery stores and see the water is gone and the bread's gone, and a lot of times the milk is gone as well. I would encourage folks, as you do your weekly shopping or so, grab a couple of extra bottles of water, grab a couple of non-perishable things so that you are building your supply kit incrementally and not crippling the system right before a storm as well. So just something to think about. Bottled water and a lot of these non-perishables will last a while. Just make sure you keep track of those expiration dates on your non-perishable foods. But being able to build those kits incrementally, I think it's less stressful too, because those grocery stores can be harried places right before a storm. So it's a little less stressful to have to hurry up and go to the grocery store with everybody else before a storm is coming as well. So also, don't forget your pets when you're developing these plans as well, and personal documents also. Yes, having things on the cloud, on a digital based cloud can be helpful, but also having those printed copies that you can take with you, especially if you evacuate, will be very helpful to access quickly as well. So something to think about. Again, these lists for emergency supply kits are everywhere. This is ready.gov's. Water, 1 gallon per person per day for at least 3 days. Food, battery powered flashlight, whistle to signal for help, dust mask, moist towelettes, tools, can opener for food, local maps as well. Again, we rely very heavily on our phones, but think about if the phone is not accessible to you, what will you need to have? What will you need to have readily available to you? And again, these kits don't have to be built overnight. This is something that you can build over time also. This is another great infographic from ready.gov and FEMA and thinking about power outage kits. They say 3-day supply of food, water, and medications, especially if you have a power outage. But I've also heard some recommendations of you may want to think about 7 days. A lot of our areas in Florida, especially some of our more rural areas, were out for much longer than 3 days. And so having maybe a 7-day supply may be a little more helpful, especially if you're in an area that you're not readily close to a major grocery store or a major store that would hopefully open up very quickly after a storm as well. So just something to think about of power outages, maybe even also longer than 3 days as well. Obviously, 3 days is the standard, but think about 5 to 7 days too. Would you have enough for 5 to 7 days also? Especially if if some of our large stores are not opening up as quickly as we like. But we definitely try to get those open. The state tries to get those open as quick as possible. I just wanted to provide y'all with some of the other ones. This is one for parents and families with Save the Children. Again, Google it. You will get more than you ever wanted to see regarding templates of making a plan as well. But it's a great way to use as a guide if you want to kind of build your own of a guide of what things should we be looking at, especially these ones that want you to include the kids in it as well. I mentioned kind of quickly regarding important numbers and documents. Phone numbers are also sometimes not accessible after storms because our phones do crazy things and a lot of times they're not charged. So making sure that you've got those critical phone numbers that you need on a plan is going to be very helpful as well. And then also your critical documents. This includes any home insurance information, medical insurance that you may need, veterinarian information, vet things that you may need regarding your pet, especially if you're going to go to a shelter, a pet-friendly shelter. Those shelters will require you to show that your vaccination records for your pet as well. So things to think about, especially if you are planning to evacuate and are planning to go to a shelter as well. So when should you prepare? Obviously, we encourage families to pick a time when all families will be home, and make sure you schedule a check-in every few months to ensure the plan is up to date. Do not develop a plan for it just to sit on the counter or sit on a bookshelf. Make sure it's something that is a living, breathing document and that the families take out every once in a while to say, hey, we're coming into hurricane season, or we're in hurricane season now. Let's double check with this and make sure everything is up to date. Did little Bobby get a new cell phone? So I, make sure we've got everybody's phone numbers, make sure we have everything in place, basically. So good things to think about is like this plan is something that needs to evolve as your family evolves, as your needs change. So making sure that you update that plan as changes happen. So when should you prepare? Disasters can often be the best teaching moment, as we have seen with some of the past storms that we've had. Taking moments after a disaster to debrief with your family or debrief with folks and friends, and then update that plan. Like, okay, this worked really well for us this time, but next time we should do this. Write it down. Everybody thinks, oh, I'm going to remember, but you don't. You really don't remember. So being able to write that down and reference it later is going to be very helpful as well. And look for other examples to learn from. Talk with your neighbors, talk with other folks about their family plans and what they learned, especially for folks, maybe if you're new to the area and have not been through a storm, talk with folks that have been through a storm and ask them, what are some things that I need to do? What are some examples? What are some things that you weren't prepared for that you suggest that I be prepared for as well? So it's a great way to learn, and it's a great way to get going with your own family plan of learning what others have learned from past storms as well. Be mindful of disasters in other communities. Discuss as a family what your family would have done. This is especially true with other disasters in other areas. Obviously, our state has been impacted by wildfires recently as well. But reaching out to, maybe you have family members that deal with different types of disasters, especially natural disasters in other states. What would you have done, especially if you were possibly impacted by a wildfire? Does your plan include something that includes steps regarding wildfire preparation as well? So obviously, we're in Florida. We're impacted by a lot of tropical systems, and we've been impacted by a lot of different hurricanes in the past couple of years, but do not want to discourage that planning for other types of natural disasters, and then other types of disasters as well. So to think about. Developing a disaster plan, I would say some of the main things to keep in mind are, what is that meeting place? Is it neighborhood? Is it regional? Crucial numbers, out of town contacts, in town contacts, school work info, medical information, and insurance policy information. And then that family information, and that's family including in your area with you, but then outside the area as well. Their cell phone, date of birth, social security number, medical history as well, in case you need it, because you may not be able to access these papers and you may have evacuated as well. So just a couple of resources. I think we'll provide this in the follow-up blog as well. But a lot of these are the sources that I used in developing the past slides. So the last thing I want to talk about with planning is know your zone. And this is extremely important in Florida. So this is on the floridadisaster.org website. And you can simply click in know your zone. Obviously, mine is showing you the evacuation zones on the left-hand side because I am in the North Florida area. But yours would show your area in this as well. And this is your zone, is regarding how vulnerable you are to storm surge, how vulnerable you are to winds. And so know your zone. And I would say one of the main things of understanding is when you are asked to evacuate, please do so. Listen to the your local folks, local information, local government regarding the best way to evacuate and when to evacuate. I think people try to wait till the last minute. I would encourage you not to do so, otherwise you may be sitting in traffic. But making sure that you leave that if your zone, once you know your zone is being asked to evacuate, please do so. Now, a lot of folks think that, okay, my zone's being evacuated. I need to drive north. And that's not necessarily the case. So I'll give my example of here in Jacksonville. I am in zone, sorry, I should know this, shouldn't I? I am in zone C. So zone A and B have been evacuated. Zone C has not been evacuated yet. We were asked to evacuate for one of the most recent storms. But instead of driving to Georgia or driving to South Carolina, we simply went to a friend's house who was not in an evacuation zone. So understand you can go to another part of the city. You can go to a shelter that's not in an evacuation zone at all. So not all of your area or not all of your community may be in an evacuation zone. So is there another area within your particular county that you can go that's not an evacuation zone? So I think a lot of people hear evacuate and they think they have to drive hundreds of miles, and that's not necessarily the case. You can drive across the county to a safer area that's not in an evacuation zone. So just something to think in mind. I know it gets very overwhelming thinking about trying to evacuate, so just keep that in mind as well. Okay, so a couple of things regarding being safe during the storm that I just wanted to touch on as well. Obviously, the preparations that we talked about during blue skies will enable you to be safe during those storms as well. A few things to keep in mind are, where are the shelters? Again, if you've been asked to evacuate, you could go to a shelter, you could go to a friend's house, you could go to a family member's house that's not in that evacuation zone as well. And pay attention to updates from those weather and news sources. Again, your local information is going to be the best information to listen to, and take their advice as well. Know your generator safety, know electricity and mobile devices. Make sure those mobile devices are charged and that you have the battery chargers as well ready to go and that they're charged also. Don't forget about flooding. Flooding can be a major impact within these storms as well. And so a lot of times the flooding doesn't happen until after the storm has passed, sometimes based upon tides, etc. And then do not forget about planning for your mental and physical health as well. I tell people a lot of times, I'm one of those folks that likes to color with the colored pencils. That's kind of a stress reliever for me. So my emergency kit includes that. I have another friend who does knitting. She kind of does knitting as a stress reducer, and she's got a knitting kit in her emergency pack. So think about those things that are going to help you instead of just waiting for the storm and listening to the wind out in the rain outside. What are some of the things that are going to help ease your mind a little bit as well? I also like this infographic on the left here from Surviving the Storm from FEMA. Number one, evacuate immediately if you're ordered to do so. Take those critical supplies with you. If you do not evacuate, take shelter indoors and stay away from windows and doors. If you're not being asked to evacuate your particular area, still make sure that you're staying safe within your home if you're sheltering what's inside. Get inside a safe shelter or sturdy building as much as possible. Pay attention to those updates from weather stations and news sources. Use a generator, a grill, or camp stove only outdoors. And again, those floodwaters are a lot deeper than you realize. So turn around, don't drown. Do not drive during a hurricane, and conserve mobile devices and batteries for emergency use at all times. So sheltering, I love this picture here of the right-hand side of making sure you strap his entire house down ahead of the Florida hurricane. If you're told to evacuate, do so. Allow enough time to pack and inform family and friends. Determine if you're going to go to a shelter or if you're going to go to one of those areas that we talked about before that are not in an evacuation zone. Be sure you secure your windows, permanent storm shutters, board up windows that are 5/8 exterior grade marine plywood and ready to install as well. And bring in outside furniture, decorations, trash cans, anything that can be picked up as winds. Kind of walk around your yard and say, okay, what could be a projectile? What could go through a window? So think about those things that could be picked up. I mean, we're talking potentially 130 mile per hour to 157 mile per hour winds. So it could be devastating winds that could pick things up. And fill your car's tank up with gas. My family, I tell them during hurricane season, you do not go below a half tank of gas, period. So I don't know if they always listen to me, but I keep at least a half tank the entire hurricane season. Even if there's nothing out there brewing, I try to at least keep a half tank in my car all season long. Shelter in place, take refuge in a small interior room, closet, hallway, or lowest level. Think about putting as many walls between you and the outside. If the eye of storm passes over your area, be calm, but on one side of the eye, wind speed will rapidly increase. Tornadoes are common with hurricanes. We definitely saw those in the storms of 2024. And if a warning is issued, go to the most innermost hallway on the lowest floor of your home or office floor. And don't be afraid to use a bathroom or closet for shelter as well. Just a couple of the news and updates regarding, especially this is more of a Alachua County area, but listen frequently to your TV, NOAA radio for a hazard bulletin for your storm's progress. NOAA weather radio, if you Google that, it will show you the NOAA weather for your particular area, and you can see the different stations there in that map there also. Generator safety. Number one, read all instructions and safety materials before a storm. Make sure you know this beforehand. Do not connect generators directly to house wiring. Never run a generator indoors. Never in your garage or near an open window. Operate it outside and away from the home. Make sure that it's part of your pre-storm checklist so you have enough fuel. Keep generator dry and on firm ground as much as possible. Use extension cords that are rated for that particular load. They're three-pronged and no damage. And obviously, when you're buying generators, they can help you with that of what those extension cords are. And be sure not to overload. Make sure you read those instructions carefully in blue skies before the storm is coming. ESFI does a great job of providing information, and I have one of their really nice infographics there as well. Electricity and mobile devices, charge your phone before a storm, charge your electronic devices as well as any of your batteries also. Generators, refrigerator, charge devices, fans, metal equipment, and light. I hear people all the time say, well, we'll use the generator to charge the TV. Well, okay. Let's think about the refrigerator. Let's keep our food safe and charging our devices first, but then maybe the TV. Battery power and sources, power stations, radio, flashlight, jump starter, and those outlets. Solar chargers can be fantastic. We have an extension agent who in Lee County, which is down there where Ian hit, who has a bunch of the solar chargers that she puts out after the storm has passed. Because if you've ever been through a storm here in Florida, the day after the storm has passed is beautiful, absolutely beautiful, blue sky day, gorgeous day. So she takes those solar charges, puts them out during the day, and then brings them in her house at night so that she's got lights, because we're going to be out of power for maybe a week. So in blue sky, thinking about investing in energy efficiency equipment, and mobile devices may be impacted due to cell wind fan damage and heavy traffic. So making sure that you have alternative means of communicating with folks. Flooding, never drive in flooded areas. Turn around, don't drown. If they surround your car, abandon your car and move to higher ground. Don't try to drive through it as well. Do not wade through floodwater without a protective equipment. You do not realize when those floodwaters came in, what all it brought with them. You could have bacteria or oil, hazardous materials, solid waste, and other contaminants as well. We're actually doing a training next week regarding what are those hazardous materials that can be found after disasters, and that's one of the things that could be in floodwater as well. Avoid walking through those floodwaters more than 6 inches. You can be quickly swept away even after a storm also. And again, we talked a little bit about mental and physical health as well. Physical, making sure that you have your medications, healthy snacks, staying hydrated. That was the reason for the 1 gallon per person per day. Sleep, making sure you can sleep. Staying healthy will minimize your stress. Mental, spend time with family and friends, activities you enjoy, taking one thing at a time, and ask for help if you need it. And I would also suggest staying off of social media. Just constantly scrolling and seeing the impact can be very detrimental as well. Speaking of social media, can be a valuable tool in times, but then be careful of that doom scrolling as well. This is SAMHSA. This is their disaster distress hotline. You can call or text that number as well. They do a fantastic job after disasters. just a couple of helpful social media sites as well. I know we'll get this out to you as well. And then lastly, there on the bottom, the shameless plug here from our Eden National, and then UF in Florida, Eden as well. We always try to share information that can be helpful to communities as well. So it'd be probably another way to get some information. And I quickly, because I know I'm running out of time, but just something quick things that I want to talk about regarding impacts. Obviously, keep in mind flooding after a storm as well. Think about structural damage, not only to your home, but surrounding homes as well, and how that could impact you and impact trying to get in and out of your home. Make sure generator safety is top of mind and that you are using your generator safety. Be aware of fraud. Unfortunately, we have many people that come into Florida that want to help, but ensuring that these folks that want to cut down your tree are insured and that they are certified as well. Debris, there will be lots and lots of debris. So, listening to your local officials regarding how best to get that debris in one area, when pickup will be, and how you need to get that debris ready to go for them to pick up. And last but not least, I can't emphasize enough, listen to your local officials. If they ask you to evacuate, please do so. So my final thought is you are not this guy. So don't be this guy. So just keep in mind, like Florida is kind of known for being crazy during storms. And so just making sure that you are safe, that you are like, oh, let's go look and see. No, don't go look and see. Stay where you are. Keep yourself as safe as possible. Don't try to be one of those folks that say you're going to throw a hurricane party. So making sure that you keep your safe family and your neighbors safe as well. Some last resources that I provided as well. These are great resources that are updated all the time as well. And lastly, just stay safe this season, folks. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. I'm Andrea Alberton. I'm a colleague of Dr. Yilin Zhuang and Dr. Angie Lindsey, and they are not able to be here right now. They're traveling, and so I have stepped in their spot, and I'm here to answer any questions that you might have or any comments. And anything that I can't answer, I will pass on to Angie and to Yilin. So thank you for listening to that and for attending. And if you do have questions, please, can you write them in the Q&A part of in the toolbar in your Zoom webinar link? You should have a Q&A there on your screen that you see. If you don't see it on the far right of your screen, there's a little more button with 3 dots, and the Q&A should be in there. So currently I don't see any questions, but I will stay here for a Oh, and Rebecca, actually, thank you, Rebecca, you're on there. She's also a colleague of ours, and she helps with our communications, has opened the chat. That would actually be easier. You can type any questions directly in the chat as well. All right, it seems like we're not getting any questions.
There's one in the Q&A.
Oh, thanks, Rebecca. That just came in. Let me open that up. Is the prediction that you showed earlier for the Atlantic Ocean and the Gulf? So that's a good question. And Angie, in the initial one was for the hurricane season. And I think that does include like Florida in general, so the Atlantic and the Gulf, but I will get you a definitive answer on that. What we'll do is, since we have all of your emails, is any of the questions that are here, we'll get definitive answers for you and send those back out just so that we have Angie's final verdict on that. But yes, I do think that includes our area. But again, we'll prepare something for you to send out. Thank you for that.
I just looked at the infographic that Angie provided, and it does say Atlantic, the Atlantic
Okay.
season, the Atlantic hurricane season outlook. And it has 8 to 14 named storms and 3 to 6 hurricanes. And that's for the 2026 Atlantic hurricane season outlook.
And I think it's called Atlantic because the storms start in the Atlantic and then they come into the Gulf. I'm not a hurricane expert, but generally the Atlantic, that's where our storms originate rather than on the Pacific, right, which are the typhoons that we see to the west. So generally it's the Atlantic hurricane season because they're formed at the Atlantic and then they can come into the Gulf. But we'll again talk to Angie and see if there's anything specifically where from the Atlantic season one can get an idea of, hey, what is it? What might that mean for the Gulf? All right. Um, let's see. It said, thank you for communications. Appreciate very much all of your comments. We will definitely pass those on to Angie. She always does an excellent job. And she is our hurricane and disaster prep resource and left all of that communication. And with the email that we send out or with the information we send out, we'll have all of those contacts for you and for Eden as well. All right. We'll stay on here just in case people have any additional ones. We have a couple more minutes left. Yeah, I want to say I always get caught up with hurricane season. It comes faster than I'm ready for. And we're in the middle of it. And I think a lot of us sit back a little bit and don't hurry up because most of our storms have been coming a little bit later, right in September, October, but you never know if something will start up in July or August. Things are changing. So thanks, Rebecca, for that link for the Atlantic Hurricane Outlook from NOAA.
I have a question for you. What was the one piece of advice when you first moved to Florida about hurricane season that someone told you that you still follow to this day?
That for me, Rebecca?
Of course, yeah.
Or for people in the chat. Yeah. I was gonna say one thing, I'm not gonna, yes, I will think about your question because I didn't really get, I came August 15th and I live in Tallahassee and we had a hurricane very shortly thereafter. That same year, Hurricane Hermine. And what I was going to say is what I learned from that one is that Hurricane Hermine was a category one. And everyone was like, oh, it's just a category one. It's just a category one. But Tallahassee had not had a major hurricane in a very long time. And so that category one ended up downing a lot of trees, and we were out of power for more than a week. And category one still is, I forget the rating that Angie put up there, but it winds, close to 100 miles per hour. So when people shrug off category ones or twos, I always remember the category one that we went through when I first moved here. That was probably one of the worst storms I've been through. So I think that is my major lesson learned is do not shrug off a hurricane one. Yeah. What about you, Rebecca?
When we first moved, it was August of 1990. So I've been here for a very, very long time. I'm almost native, but not really. I think the first piece of advice that we received, and I was pretty young at the time, and my dad traveled for work. So my mom had 3 kids, and it was just her and 3 children. And we were all kind of pretty young at the time. None of us could drive. That our neighbor said when there was a hurricane predicted, it wasn't anywhere near us yet. We didn't know what it was going to do, but our neighbor said to us, go fill your car up with gas. Do it now and keep filling it up, like keep it topped off because we don't know what's going to happen. But the first thing, as soon as it starts swinging towards whatever location, whatever the models start saying, people run to the gas station. And it's not necessarily that there isn't any gas, it's that they can't get it there. It's just that everyone kind of panics and panic buys ahead of time. And so you don't want to be in a situation where you thought, oh, it's not going to hit us. It's not going to come for us. It's not, and then it does. And everyone else has already kind of emptied out the gas stations, and they can't get the tankers there because all of the roads are jammed with traffic, evacuation traffic of people trying to get where they need to get. So, and then you're really, really in a tight spot. So if, that's the kind of the first thing you can think of. And it's not something that is a big thing, and it's not something that people think about until sometimes it's too late. So just when you first hear that and you first start thinking about it, just doesn't have to be completely full, but just more than half the tank is what you want. And so that's kind of the rule I learned early on, and it's really been super, super helpful. And it also helps because if it does come to you and you need to get out of town quick, you've got it and you're good.
Yes, no, that's perfect. That's perfect. And it's a good reminder. Angie had also mentioned gas. Always water is also a big one. We have another one. What is a good resource for house preparation if I'm not in town during a hurricane? Came in through the Q&A. Um, when we send the information out, I'm sure Angie and Eden has a list for those that aren't in town or live partially of how to sort of close down your house before leaving. So that's a really good reminder to have something sent out. I appreciate that. Also, Elin and I have something called the Florida Well Owner Network, which is a private well and septic system education program, and we have tips for those that have septic systems and those on private wells as well. So we'll be sure to send that out with links for wells and septics, as well as what if you have a seasonal home or you're out of town, how should you prep before you leave? So thank you for that. Then we have a comment, cash is equally as important if there is no power. Yes, ATMs do not work. Some of the machines do not card operatable machines. That is very, very true. And my husband's very good about this. He always has cash on hand for any emergencies. And so that's something, thank you for that. That is a very important point. Have cash available. Mhm. We got a comment. I didn't even think about my well. Yes, with your well, a lot of it has to do with making sure you have enough water before, because if you have no electricity, pumps go out. So one of the biggest issues we had here in the Panhandle after Hurricane Michael, Angie referred to Michael, people didn't have power for up to a month. Many of them were well users. Of course, your well pump does not work. So people were trying to sort of jimmy their generators and do some things that weren't necessarily so safe. So those connections and having an electrician make a connection for you for your generator and for other things is really important before a storm. Yeah, these are really good. People are on top of it. With wells and with any kind of water, even if you're not on a well, but it's just the one thing that from the CDC that there's a great infographic, and it's always that if you're unsure about your water quality, boiling, if you can boil, is always the best way to ensure that it's safe because it kills all pathogens. It's much safer to boil than filter or any chemical means. If you can't boil, then chemical means and filtration is the second one. But bringing water to a rolling boil kills all viruses, bacteria, and other pathogens in there. So that's a really important one to remember. So lock your garage door. Yes. And what we do in our home is we park our vehicles right up to the garage door. So leave very little space there. And that has helped us, especially during that Hurricane Hermine and others, so that our garage door didn't get blown in. So not only lock, but having something against that was actually helpful for us. Stay on for one more minute or so because people are adding comments, which is nice. We'll let Elin and Angie know that their presentations generated good questions and comments. All right. Oh yeah, the CDC Safe Drinking Water. Thank you. So Rebecca put in the chat a link to the CDC Safe Drinking Water. And that's good for anywhere, backcountry, anywhere you are. It's just good to remember. I think maybe since it's 3:05 and it looks like people are slowing down, we might just end this webinar. But as Rebecca had mentioned, or Elin in her section at the very beginning, we will have resources. We can send sort of a summary out to you all, and we'll keep these questions in mind that you've had and create some responses for those as well as some of the resources that were mentioned. So thank you all so much for your attention, and we will see you at the next Water Wednesday. Bye. Thanks so much, Rebecca, for helping out with all the tech stuff. All right.